What's up people? When I started shooting with the GH5S earlier this year, I was trying to decide what photo style would be best for video, Vlog or HLG. I had a few questions though. What even is HLG? Is it better than Vlog? So I did some reading and my own side-by-side comparisons. Let's get into it. HLG stands for Hybrid Log Gamma, which is a high dynamic range HDR standard developed by the BBC and the NHK in Japan for broadcast use, basically for allowing HDR broadcast, as many of us now have HDR TVs or displays. But HLG retains backwards compatibility with SDR, standard dynamic range, displays too, which is where the hybrid in Hybrid Log Gamma comes in, referring to this dual coding of SDR and HDR. Now, colour space is what defines what colours are allowed. HLG works in a Rec.2020 colour space, HDR, opposed to Rec.709, which many of us still work in and deliver in at this moment in time. The GH5S uses Vlog L, and according to the metadata in Premiere Pro, when shooting in 10-bit all-I, it uses the V-gamut colour space, which as you can see is a wide colour space and actually wider than Rec.2020 in fact. But as I'm still working and delivering most of my projects in a Rec.709 colour space and haven't actually got a HDR monitor or developed a HDR workflow yet, I will be comparing these two profiles in Rec.709 and exporting in Rec.709, so that's what you'll be seeing when you're watching this video. So you've just seen my camera settings for how I captured the daylight and low light comparisons of Vlog and HLG. I thought to make it a fair test, I better keep everything the same and only swap the profile. I actually exposed in Vlog first both times and then found when swapping to HLG it did drop in an exposure value on the camera by about 0.3 of a stop. Looking at them both in Davinci, you can see the scopes in the bottom right hand corner reflect that, but with HLG already having a wider waveform, Vlog certainly is a lot flatter. Looking at the vector scopes, you can see HLG seems to be pretty bang on the skin tone line and closer in my low light candlelit scene than Vlog. Anyway, I'm quickly going to run through and get everything roughly to a Rec.709 starting point and then compare them for you. So while I'm still learning Davinci, I'm using the free version of the software. The full studio version has a HDR mode, which is something I'll be looking at later this year, and then likely recomparing these two profiles in a Rec.2020 colour space. If you want to know how I'm working with these 10-bit all-I files in the free Resolve, I've done a video on that and we'll pop a link to it below. As you can see, I'm doing some basic tweaks with lift, gain and curves, adding a touch of saturation and then testing the look on the low light shot before exporting a LUTS and applying it to my timeline in Premiere Pro. Looking at them side by side, HLG seems to lean more towards the yellows and greens, and then Vlog, like most log profiles I've worked with, leans more towards magenta. As HLG works in a Rec.2020 colour space, it's definitely a profile to consider more and more going forward, but as I'm still delivering online content in Rec.709 and the HLG profile isn't available in all the different settings on my GH5S, I would prefer Vlog to keep consistency at high frame rates and in time-lapse, two common things that I use in many of my videos. So I hope this has helped anyone trying to gain some understanding of these two profiles. I've certainly had a lot to get my head around while learning and experimenting. I'm going to be sharing a lot of content this year as I learn more and further develop my skills, so be sure to give me any feedback as I go and sub if this content is of any use to you. Thanks again for watching, till next time.